This is Abnormal Entertainment.
I am a real American, fight for the rights of every man. I am a real American, fight for what's right, fight for your life.
You're listening to the No Cry Zone, a progressive political podcast on the Abnormal Entertainment Network.
And welcome to the No Cry Zone. We are proud to report that 500,000 coal jobs have come back. That was just released.
I heard it was 500 million.
Yeah.
Either way, it's the same.
And Germany and Australia and China and all those guys that are going to green, renewable sources, they're just stupid. They're just losers.
Well, you mean every other country in the world? Including Syria and Nicaragua, who just thought the Paris Accords weren't strong enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Nicaragua thought it was not strong enough.
Right.
Syria couldn't get there.
Yeah, they're in a civil war. Kind of middle of a civil war right now.
But
500,000 coal jobs.
Right. That's
Coming back!
Oh, yeah.
Does he specify where these may be?
Well, no. They think that he's really counting on all of Santa's elves. Those are the new jobs because all the coal for Trump supporters this Christmas.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's lots of coal to go around.
Because all of those deals that he was touting while he was, being inaugurated and before, that he was going to make all these deals, all of those have gone south now. The Carrier deal, the Ford, and most of them he really didn't have a hand in. I mean, it's just you can't keep up with his lies. So we're on to his new lies. Trying to
the fake signing ceremony this week.
So don't hold your breath on the 500,000 coal miner jobs.
They're coming.
And don't forget, several U.S. states, California, Hawaii, have signed their own Paris
Pennsylvania
climate accords.
Or Pittsburgh.
They've just gone ahead and said we're going to, as a state, and many, many cities, including New York City and Pittsburgh, they're going forward anyway.
States' rights.
And
remember that?
Well, yeah, Republicans are for states' rights until they're not. That is, and that goes for just about any kind of right. They're for them until they're no longer for them.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Keep up.
Right.
So now, is there a point to the argument that the Democrats are just as much as fault for all of this? I mean, they did have power at one point. Should we be complaining about the Democrats and their lack of
We have
environmental?
Wait till they're in power again.
We don't have anything.
Well, right now, but they were policymakers.
We signed the Paris Accord
when we knew about this.
Well, Thomas Jefferson was a Republican. So what? We're talking about now. And, that to me, though, that's exactly the line I'm hearing from all of the Trump supporters.
Sure.
Well, it's the Democrats' fault. I mean, you had Eric Trump, dumb Trump, whatever the idiot was.
Well, even the Michael Flynn, they're trying to pin on the
was on
Democrats.
Fox last night, and he basically saying, Democrats aren't even people. They won't cooperate. You run the government. Run it.
My point is if we just let that go and don't talk about how wrong that is, that just ends off being the truth again.
But we already did, though, when it happened.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true.
So now we're on to new stuff.
Yeah,
because and under Obama, the Paris Accords were signed. Mm-hmm. There was a great deal of environmental legislation forced through. All turned around now. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we can bitch all we want about how not effective we were then when we were pretty effective compared to now.
Well, a lot of what Obama got done, he had to do by presidential executive order.
Right.
So that's all. The thing about executive orders are you can bypass Congress, but they're also easily reversed. Legislation is always the best way to go because it's much harder to reverse it. But it was clear this Congress, I mean, and again, the Trump supporters and Republicans, the Obama, he ruled by fiat and his edicts. And I'm like, because you are nothing but obstruction from literally day one. You were obstructing everything.
And what's different now?
Exactly. I mean, and that they run the place. They don't even understand our fine president clearly does not. He needed to watch the Schoolhouse Rock series before he got to the White House. Because it's clear he does not understand how the government works. He doesn't understand that, he's tweeting out criticizing his own Justice Department.
Yeah.
Okay? That's your department. You're in charge of it. He's tweeting out.
This is recent, too.
Yeah, this week. He's tweeting out about, it's clear he doesn't understand, as we're getting more information about how he was trying to shut down the FBI investigation. Clearly, he was extremely frustrated to learn that he didn't control the FBI director. Okay?
Yep.
And that his only course of action was to fire him, which clearly, obviously, he resorted to. But he really did think that he was going to be the CEO of the U.S. government. And he could just pick up a phone and say, make this happen. Pick up a phone and just call and just say, lock the borders. Pick up another phone and just say, build the wall. Pick up another phone and just say, stop that investigation. And not understand, divided powers.
I heard that he was more pissed off that the White House doesn't have endless breadsticks. That's what I.
He already has the button where the Diet Coke comes in.
Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Can I get a Diet Coke for these people?
And then I know this is
I bet that's the first thing too. He installed a Diet Coke button.
Oh.
I'm President of the United States. I need a Diet Coke button.
Right. I also like the many pictures of him eating KFC.
Yeah, there's lots.
And I'm like, for a guy who doesn't believe in exercise, and believe me, I am not one to talk, but I just find it funny that our president drinks a lot of Diet Coke, eats a lot of KFC, and refuses to exercise because it will drain his precious bodily fluids.
Maybe that's why
his life force,
people,
John.
Right.
So many people
Life
voted
force.
for him. Because that's a prevailing thought.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
And it's not really that thought out as far as the life force, but I just like KFC and Diet Coke.
It-
It offsets,
right.
It cancels one another out.
Maybe Melania's encouraging the KFC. Oh, you should eat more. Eat more. Oh, would you like the extra crispy? Yes. Extra buckets. Yeah.
Next year on How to Make a Murderer. It's like, I gave him type 2. He lost his foot, and we're working our way up from there.
Okay.
This is the joke. I mean, this is the leader of our country.
Yeah.
Yes.
That we're talking about.
He is a
And
joke.
it's just-
Remember
it's just-
remember Bush? And
Remember?
he was goofy. Bush was goofy, and he was dumb, and he made some boner moves. His dad did too, barfing on the prime minister.
Well, look, when you got a barf, you got
that
a barf.
stuff happens.
Okay.
But W was given the Merkel back rub. No, it wasn't Angela Merkel. Who was
It was Merkel.
It was Merkel.
It was
Yeah,
Merkel.
and she just
Yeah.
was like,
You can just go,
just the super ickiness, and just ham-handing his way through things. But he wasn't dumb. He wasn't oblivious. He wasn't ignorant. Ignorant's the word I'm looking for.
You know what? Whatever you want to say about George W. Bush, he at least had respect for the office.
There's that.
Okay, you could argue what his policies were, you could argue what his motivations were, but there was a basic respect for the office. There was a basic respect for the government of the United States. There is zero respect from this president, not only for the office that he holds, but for the government that he represents. And that's right there is the crux of the problem.
Right.
He thinks he is the government, and he is a representative of the government. And he thinks he is. He should just be able to just order it, and thus it shall be.
What's the first time he's ever worked for anyone else? He just happens to work for like 4 million people.
So, So, look, over the past weekend, we had this attack in London, this terrible attack.
Yep.
Immediately, our president, as the attack is still unfolding, he's on Twitter. He's criticizing the mayor of London.
leaking classified.
He's, putting information out there. Exactly.
From Breitbart.
Exactly. And so that, right. And it became clear afterwards that he was getting his briefings from Breitbart. Here's a man who is at the helm of the world's greatest intelligence operation ever. With the most sophisticated technology, with vast resources, and he is logging on to Breitbart to get his information. That is his briefing. That is his intelligence briefing. He clearly disdains or does not believe, or more likely doesn't understand the actual intelligence briefing he gets daily.
And it's obvious he's just a headline reader.
Right.
That's all he does is read
And
the
they've said-
headline and
He wants graphics.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who's a showrunner, and he was a showrunner for 2 years on The Apprentice. And I will not give away his name, although he's easy to find on IMDb because we have shared credits. But he said that he was working, The Apprentice stuff, and Trump would struggle with cue cards more than multisyllabic words, polysyllabic words, kind of destroyed him.
Right. I have no doubt.
So there's that. I mean, it's hearsay because I wasn't there, but a lot of people attest to that.
Well, I saw an article, and I can't, attest to its veracity, but there was an article that had been examining his speech patterns in the last 5 years, and they said that his vocabulary usage has greatly diminished in the last 5 years, which can be a sign, by the way, of dementia. Early signs of dementia is and I'm not making a diagnosis, but again, one of those things is a decreasing amount of vocabulary. And his vocabulary is not that great to begin with.
All my dad says now is Walker, Texas Ranger, and hey, that's tasty.
Well,
That's it.
But that's all he
You
needs.
gotta translate. It's like Groot.
But that's all.
Like, what does that mean? Oh, he's hungry now.
That's precious. So anyway, so our president is, as the world is watching this terror attack unfold, our president is embarrassing himself, us, taking on this mayor of London, who his last name is Khan. I believe he's of some religious faith. I'm trying to remember what it was. I believe he's Muslim.
Oh, I thought he was Wrath of.
Well,
That's messed up.
Right.
I don't want to mess with that con.
No.
I wish he would piss that con off. Colonel Montalban swoops in, gives him an earworm. Boom! That's what you get.
See Trump at his desk with KFC in front of him. He's just, Khan! So, it was interesting because when the Manchester bombing had occurred a couple weeks prior, the mayor of Manchester had made similar statements on Twitter, and Trump was quite cooperative and complimentary. That man was white, and I believe Christian. Dark-skinned Muslim, white Christian, two different...
It's the name of the city. He lives in Manchester.
Okay.
Manchester.
You're right. You've nailed it. Once again, you've nailed it. Really, you could go work for Breitbart.
I am going to work for Breitbart.
They'd buy that in a minute. They'd be like, yes, go with it.
Testosterone levels in Manchester 173% higher than rest of UK. Yeah.
See a spike in people naming their children Chester.
Chester.
So,
But now, have they rescinded the invitation? He was going to come. No, he's
still coming.
Now
talk.
people are waiting.
Yeah.
This is like waiting for Chappelle to come back. They're like, bring Trump in, please, please. Let's see it. It's a dog and pony show now.
Oh.
It's not all talk. It's a show. When he went into
Unfortunately,
NATO,
you're right.
all the world leaders laughing at him at NATO, they want to see him come back. He was the best opener they've ever had.
The thing that's not funny about all this is that our power, our influence as a nation is vastly diminished.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not even a half year into this presidency yet.
4 months, 4.5 months.
Yeah.
Turn us into
It's 5 months. I don't even know what the hell it is. But we got 3.5 more years of this shit to go.
But where has the power
Theoretically.
gone? Here's the question: where has the power gone?
Germany and China.
Well, it depends
I
where.
would say more corporate. It has gone more to corporate entities, more privatizing everything. The private prisons are cooking.
That's here.
He wants to.
We're talking world power.
Yeah,
It's gone to Germany and China.
I would say that's probably true. Yeah.
Here, it's always been in the corporate entities.
I still say our banks are still kicking ass on the rest of the world.
It's like the Russian banks.
Our banks
This is
pretty much set the tone.
This
for
is
the rest
time
of the
being
world.
right now. Wait until the dollar's no longer in use in a couple of years.
Right.
That's when it's going to the yen.
Yeah,
or
what's all that stuff on Qatar? You know,
Oh, my
why
gosh.
did they all?
Right.
Why did
So
they all
let's
spin on
I'm
it?
glad you brought that up. So let's
Because it kind of goes into
Yeah.
because that could really bring on
Right.
a change.
Let's
in the power.
recap. Let's
a bad
recap.
thing.
So our president, when he was in the Middle East, all of the Middle East, even though it was Israel, and he didn't think he was in the Middle East.
Fixing it.
Yeah.
Remember.
Oh, fixing everything.
When I was fixing the
right,
Middle East.
right. Fixed.
It's no longer the middle. It's riding shotgun. It's called Shotgun East now. And no one's sitting bitch over here.
Shotgun East. Okay. Well, you're on fire today, man.
I'm killing it. I'm going to open for Trump.
Oh God. Anyway, so when he was in the Middle East, he mentioned there was a brewing scandal at the time that some comments supposedly made by the Emir of Qatar had been published, and they were less than complimentary of Saudi Arabia and its allies. Now, Qatar, by the way, which was where U.S. Central Command is based, we got 10,000 troops there, and that's where our war against ISIS, our Afghanistan, Iraq is, largely run out of Qatar, out of Central Command, right there. So this is an important thing. He came in and he made some comments about Qatar that several weeks later suddenly have morphed into this diplomatic crisis where Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and all these other nations are now basically blockading Qatar because it's cut off to the rest of the peninsula. It has a port, but on the Red Sea, whatever that body of water is, but it's cut off from the Arabian Peninsula by all these other countries that have now cut off contact. No air service, no one can cross the borders. So there's a lot of speculation that he has exasperated that crisis. In other words, he gave key signals to Saudi Arabia to give them the go-ahead to do this. They've been in this diplomatic war for a long time. They had withdrawn their ambassador several years ago. So this has been going on. But Trump likely, when he signed, by the way, this $130 billion arms deal with the Saudis, he gave a big thumbs up to the Saudis to go do whatever they wanted to do. Now, Qatar has been accused of funding a lot of extremist groups.
So Saudi.
But so is Saudi Arabia. Exactly. Exactly. But Saudi Arabia is using that as an excuse to do all this. And you're like, are you fucking kidding me? You guys are worse than anybody else. So the point of all this is that Trump stepped into a region. It only takes a couple of comments to completely change. Look, remember when Kuwait was invaded by Iraq, okay, during the first Bush presidency? And when they went back and they looked, that what gave Iraq the signal to go in and invade Kuwait was that the ambassador to Iraq made a comment that basically said, Kuwait's not our problem. That's not our problem. And the Iraqis went, good, it's ours now. And they invaded like days later, literally days later. Same thing with the Korean War. Dean Acheson, who was the Secretary of State at the time, he made a speech in which he laid out what the U.S. perimeter, the defense perimeter was in the Pacific region, and it didn't include Korea. And so you make these statements, and minor statements have major effects. So Trump stepped into a region. He signs this big arms deal that Obama had been blocking for years, by the way. He makes some statements about Qatar. They then go do this. We now come to find out, now just days ago, it has come out now, that the statements that were attributed to the Emir of Qatar, that this was being done by Russian hackers. That they were the ones that basically hacked in to whatever the computer source was that they got this information and then leaked it.
Yeah.
Gee, that sounds so fucking familiar.
Yeah.
Okay? So at the end of the day, you have Russian hackers again at the center of this.
And once again, if you think the Democratic side is just crying in their beer about the election, it is not. It is because Russia has a new weapon, and they are unleashing it on the whole world. It is not just us. It is they are looking to gain power, change opinion, dictate what the public does, where the public is going, and how they're going to act, the leaders that they're going to elect. this is all coming from a centralized command in Russia. And this is the big, huge issue, is we need to get to the bottom of how far does it go.
Every other country knows it's going on. They see what's happening here, and they're preparing for it.
Right.
That's largely what would have helped the French election.
Right.
They prepped for it, and because they knew it was coming.
Well, and Macron, the guy who won, he absolutely banned one of the reporters from an agency that they knew to be tied to, or I think it was RT, as a matter of fact. He said, no, you're not even allowed in our... we have to do away with the pretense of, well, I don't want to ban something. No, it's like, if you're clearly working for a foreign power, a hostile foreign power, no, we don't have to credential you. Fuck you. And
you don't even have to report if you're working for a hostile foreign power here, apparently.
Well,
and you're right, but David's right. The rest of the world is at least beginning to awaken to this weapon that, Rob, you're talking about, that the Russians have. And again, what the Russians could not achieve by force of arms through 50 years of Cold War, they are now achieving through laptops and a modem. And the willingness and the ability to do it.
And don't forget, Russia's main goal is not for the government to become powerful. It's for the oligarchs, the corporatocracy, to become all-powerful, to be more powerful than the government.
That's the Russian government.
Well, that's
already.
Yeah. But that is what ours is moving towards. We're talking about privatizing air control. We've got the teachers, screaming about public school, that they're not getting any funding. We're not getting our government to work for the people any longer. And it is if you want to call it a conspiracy, you can, but I think it is more or less just a drumbeat from that side where the money is coming from. We want less and less regulation.
This is so not secret. This has been above board for years, and people have just been ignorant of it.
I think
it's somewhere in between.
Degree.
I think it's somewhere in between.
I think at a certain point there's a boardroom meeting happening and saying we have to get these 12 senators on our side and we have to give them this much money so that they vote for this thing so that we get what we want.
Right, and then
we're missing that in
we'll never see inside a boardroom. Period. No. But we see where the money's going. Even Citizens United lets us see where it can come from anywhere. Now we can see it. We can see corporate donations, and no one cares. That's why no one cares that Russia hacked our elections. No one cares.
Well, the funny thing is even last week's show we were talking about the hacking, and we said, well, there's no information that they tried to actually affect the actual votes. And
that evening,
now we learn that indeed they did try to affect the actual votes.
The coolest part about the show is it's completely irrelevant the day it's posted.
It's every fucking time.
So if you hear it on this show.
And I think there was
it'll change.
Yeah, there was a couple weeks ago we moved it. We were like, let's move it to Thursday.
And nothing.
And then Friday it hit. I'm like, God damn it!
It's just so. And I do think that is.
We're like a barometer. Okay, it's like whatever. It's like when you read it and you go, wow, that's low. There must be a hurricane coming. So whatever. If we don't have a major scandal to be talking about, people are like, oh, something's coming.
Oh man, just wait.
Something's coming.
Well, the cycle used to go slower. I mean, in our defense, I mean, really,
yes, it's true.
The cycle was a much slower in between.
But let's
scandal cycle.
We didn't have a ringleader as opposed to a president.
Well,
the pundits would talk about a scandal for weeks.
Well, and look what is news. We can't even make this shit up if we try.
No, believe it.
The name of the person who leaked the NSA document, Reality Winner.
Right.
That's her fucking name. Reality Winner.
Yeah.
Reality Winner.
Maybe she's trying to fool Trump.
All right. First of all, what government contractor hired someone named Reality Winner and then go, let's keep an eye on that one. All right. That's just my personal whatever.
I didn't.
And then
I knew someone named Necessity once.
Okay. Well.
I mean, it's not her fault.
No, I understand that. But
you
can't be Reality Winner. Reality Winner, who, by the way, printed up this very top secret document, put it in an envelope, and mailed it off to the Washington Post, along with the printer dots at the bottom, which show, like you could take a scissor to them and cut them off, but nope. And she sent them to the Washington Post, anonymously. I mean, the thing is,
Sort of.
yeah,
Because they knew she printed it. Because, yeah.
right.
If
Well,
you're at work and you print something,
yeah,
they know.
They know.
They caught BTK, the Bind, Torture, Kill Killer,
Right,
because
right.
he used his church's computer and mailed the disc out. This is that dumb. I'm going to mail this to the
and the thing
police.
is I wholly approve of her intentions. And really, honestly,
No, it was new info. It was like it wasn't even old stuff people were ignoring. They just got that was barely a month old. It was being processed.
that's what I'm saying. The intentions I admire. The actual carrying it out needs a little work. But what happened? So she mails it to the Washington Post. The Washington Post gets it anonymously. I don't know where it came from. They then, seeking to verify it, they call up their contacts at the NSA, and the NSA says, "Let us see it." And they go, "Okay." So the first thing they noticed, by the way, and I thought this was funny because they looked at it and they noticed it was creased. Okay, so it was obviously mailed. That's the first thing. Pretty smart. It doesn't take. Matlock, but nonetheless, that is one of those things to look at and you go, interesting. Okay, this was actually mailed, like physically mailed. So that's the first, and then they see the printer dots and they're like, thank you. And they're like, oh, can we look at that? And could you send us over a scan of that? Thanks. And within minutes, they knew exactly what printer. It was printed at 6:12 a.m. They knew exactly who printed it. And
they didn't believe who it was, though. Reality winner.
What? We're being trolled.
Is this a pseudonym? Is this a Russian hacker?
Oh my God. Anyway, so the document that she released said that there was evidence that Russian hackers did try to infiltrate the company that does the actual vote tallying. One of these companies. So there was. So the Russian. Okay, so let me just finish this point then. With this document now, we have at least evidence, not conclusive proof, but we have evidence now that the Russian interference in the 2016 election ranged from disinformation all the way to actually trying to manipulate the actual vote totals and everything in between. That is an act of war. I'm not saying I want to go to war with Russia. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying we need to wake the fuck up. We're under attack. That's the weapon that you're talking about. This is an attack on democracy as much as any bomb or missile. And it's actually more insidious because it's not a bomb or missile. Everything about our country is made to defend against a bomb or a missile. It is not made to defend against this. This is a weakness of democracy that we need to wake the fuck up. Not just the U.S., but the Western world. It needs to wake up to this danger and start. If you don't even recognize it, you cannot defend against it. We need to at least recognize that this is an assault on our democracy. That's the part that most disturbs me, is that people won't even recognize it as an assault.
See, but then you have a large segment of this population that I know for a fact just can't comprehend that it's an assault.
Right.
How does that even work? Internet's like radio. That's what we're dealing with right now. We have a largely techno-goofy population.
And one of the things that Brennan said during one of the hearings kind of stuck out to me, that one of the ways that the Russians work is you might not even realize that you're being folded in.
Right.
If you are a Trump supporter, to the end, and you think Donald Trump is not a Russian spy, like I tend to, I really do think that he colluded with Russia to win this election, and he was taking their information, and he was using it, and he was putting it out there the same day RT was. They were talking back and forth to win this thing. So I have classified him as that. You don't have to. But if you are that supporter, think of it that way, that Russia is just trying to steal America's power by using an inexperienced president, inexperienced in foreign affairs. What kind of things are really going on? His area of expertise is Fox News. So they are not the foremost, experts on counterintelligence. So just think of him as an unwitting...
You're talking to someone who thinks they are, though.
Yeah. and the person who is supporting him thinks they are as well.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, and the genius, by the way, in what the Russians, Putin, whoever, in doing this attack was coupling it with the fake news paradigm. Mm-hmm. Because that's why you have all this resistance. Because now, with the notion of fake news, which if it's news, it's not fake, but okay. But with the fake news paradigm, it is a two-pronged assault, and so you can dismiss any attempt to wake up the populace to this attack can be easily dismissed now, because the whole notion of fake news has been absorbed into our society.
Right.
It's been absorbed into our culture now.
Yeah.
Now, and mainly by people on the right, but I see it sometimes people on the left will also resort to this, well, that's all fake news, and this whole chastisement of the mainstream media. Look, there are problems with the mainstream media. There's no doubt about that. I'm not trying to say it's perfect by any means. But here's the difference. The mainstream media, its main fault is that it can exclude some voices from the conversation. Yeah. Okay? It can exclude some of those voices from the conversation. What the media sphere that we are now encased in, there's absolutely no control. It's anarchy. Mm-hmm. An anarchy of information coming at us like a fire hose from every direction, yeah. And you don't know what to believe anymore. Yeah. Is that so? The thing is if I say the Washington Post and the New York Times to me are credible sources, there's a whole segment of our population that immediately will say, you're a suspect, yep, and turn you off. Yep. Then I don't have to listen to you anymore. You've cited a source. On the other side, if somebody says, well, Breitbart and Fox are sources of, I think, credible information, there's a whole segment of population that goes, boom, turns them off. The days of when you had a Walter Cronkite who could talk to both sides, and both sides would go, well, okay, and listen to it, those are gone, and it's never to come back. And we have to learn how to cope as a society with this new landscape, but we have to recognize it to begin with. Like I said, so when Walter Cronkite or any of those guys, back when there was a mainstream, because they were mainstream media, because there wasn't any non-mainstream media, frankly. So when Walter Cronkite went to Vietnam, and he came back and he said on his nightly news show, this war can't be won, President Johnson said, we're done. If I've lost Walter Cronkite, I've lost the country. He knew. I mean, think about how different that situation is now. If Walter Cronkite lived now and said if he somehow came back and he said, we're under assault by the Russians, what would happen? He would be attacked immediately by all sides. He would just become under attack. You now attack the messenger. So this is where we live now, that you can't even deliver a message anymore because it's immediately attacked. Yes.
A day early, Comey releases his prepared remarks.
Yes, I saw that.
It's developing. Things are coming out quickly. We have a quote from Trump to Comey in the remarks. I need loyalty. I expect loyalty. We knew that. And from what we're reading here, that things are very concerning in these Comey's prepared remarks so far.
Well, here's what the AP is reporting. Former FBI Director James Comey will say in his opening statement to a congressional hearing, President Donald Trump told him, quote, I need loyalty. I expect loyalty during a January dinner. In the statement, Comey says he and Trump dined together privately in January. During the meal, he says Trump asked him if he wanted to remain on as FBI director. Comey says he replied he wanted to serve out his 10-year term, but was not on anybody's side politically. Comey says Trump then made his statement about loyalty. Trump, of course, fired Comey.
And also, Christopher Wray is the new pick for the FBI director.
See, my big thing is after watching what they did today, I think he's just going to have to stonewall too. I think it's all going to have to go through special counsel
with Mueller.
I think so. I think Comey. Comey
still not going to know anything until we hear from him.
I think Comey's going to set up the special counsel.
Yeah.
I think this is a classic pick and roll.
Yeah.
You play basketball, and it's got to, because the NSA, the Rogers has to put it there, like give this little bit of, he asked for these things, which is kind of, I don't think they're too inappropriate, but here's what it is. Mm-hmm. And then Comey comes in again, and then Mueller, you know that they're conversing.
Right.
There's no way that they're not. I mean, mentor to mentee.
And what do you think if Sessions does? Have you heard the scuttlebutt on that?
Yeah.
That he's talking about
Wants to
resigning.
resign.
Well, he offered to resign.
He offered to resign then.
Please let me out of this.
Yeah, but what would happen if he was out? Would that change the? Could they get rid of the special prosecutor then? That was my question.
No, special prosecutor was
Rosenstein.
So he's now the new
But-
he would rise
but-
up as the
but-
director.
Rosenstein only had it because Sessions was recused. If they bring in a new guy who doesn't have to recuse, could he take over the whole thing and cancel everybody
Well,
else's actions?
Trump would have to fire Rosenstein first.
Okay.
And then someone else would have to come in and then,
So it is
then
now.
go through the
now
Senate
that it's
process.
been handed off, it can't go back up to a new attorney.
It can, but you got to get rid of Rosenstein and then go through the process of nominating someone else and getting them approved by the Senate.
Okay. Well, I just see so many ways for this to just drag on and drag on.
Oh, it's gonna
the longer
drag on.
it drags on, the less amount of people will care.
It's like Watergate.
Yeah.
It's going to drag on.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. And I think people that are getting antsy for like, why isn't there a conviction now, or why isn't there? Man, you're taking down the big guy.
Like, have you ever gone to court yourself?
Yeah, right.
It takes years for shit that isn't important.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's going to take a while. It's unfortunate and it's extremely frustrating to watch what's going to go down in the meanwhile. But
It's been a big, aside from the awful things like, the U.S. standing in the world, no longer leading the free world, laughing stocks, and I deal with people overseas all the time. I have a lot of artists that I deal with, and they're like, we know that most of you aren't this idiot,
right.
but come on, guys.
Well, look at after he pulled out of the Paris Accords, Macron from France, he gave an address to the American people, which reminded me, by the way, of when Obama spoke to the Iranian people.
Right.
Where you bypass the dictator and you just go right to the people. And it's like Radio Free Europe. They turn the transmitters to they go and aim them back towards the U.S. So yeah, I mean we're in for quite a ride. Now, politically speaking, this can be very beneficial as we head into 18. And I'm just being honest here. Look, I want to know. So if Mueller comes out, whenever it is, let's say it's next month, let's say it's next year, whenever that is that Mueller comes out and says, if Mueller comes out and says, look, there's a lot of stupidity, there's a lot of questionable, unethical stuff, but there's nothing illegal. I can't find any evidence of collusion. I can't find, it's done. We're done. It's got to be over. It's got to be over, and we have to put it aside and say, all right, but at least we know. At least we know.
And of
So
course, there'll
we
be the
have to go
fringes
there.
who'll be like,
Of
see,
course.
I told you so, and he's a
Right.
freaking liar.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. They'll right. Exactly. Whatever the other side will attack it. I agree. I'm just saying, from my perspective, at some point you have to imbue some authority, ultimate authority. I'm willing to put it in Mueller, and say that he's the kind of individual that won't be coerced. And so if he comes out and says, look, these are my conclusions, we're going to have to take them at face value and move on. We have to move on. Now, having said that, it is good for us politically, for progressives politically, that this draws out into 18. I mean, it'd be stupid to say otherwise.
See, my big thing there is if I understand that you can't have all this information public because the war is on go. I get that. But if the intelligence community has intelligence that is telling them that what I am saying is true, that we have elected agents of a foreign land to our highest place, I mean, that scares the hell out of me that we have to go through 2 years of this with many people knowing the true facts
Have you thought about this, though?
and not bringing it to light and bring
Is that what?
winner.
But I was going to say, is that what motivated Reality Winner? That she shared your frustration, like, fuck it, I'm just going to bypass the whole
are
thing
you
and put
right?
it out there.
But am I right?
Yeah. Are you? Do they have that information?
I have heard Rogers say that they had the goods
Okay.
on
This is
and what
not
all
to
of this
disparage
turns
any view.
into is you have to interpret their statements, their public statements on all of it.
Right. We also have to take, what's given to you as well. Sometimes, as Freud said, a cigar is a cigar. As badly as you want it, it might not be.
Well, that's why I mentioned unethical, because unethical is not illegal.
Right.
A lot of people think they don't get the distinction between these two things. I think there's a lot of things that we can say, wow, that really crosses an ethical boundary, and I don't want my president or my government to be doing that. Is it illegal? Well,
not yet. That's why that's how it starts.
So now, if I'm a betting man, I think there's some illegality going on here.
I agree.
There is a lot of smoke pouring out, and at a certain point, there's got to be a fire somewhere. There's either that or a smoke machine, and so if there's no fire, to use this analogy, which I've concocted in my brain just this second, so if there's not a fire producing all this smoke, hang on,
I'm waiting for it.
Right. So if it is a smoke machine, then that means that the smoke is being produced for some other purpose. It is being made to obscure something else. It's not for nothing. Where the smoke is being poured on for us to go, and meanwhile they're in the back door loading up the van with whatever, saying, fucking morons.
So,
this
just make the ninja smoke bomb analogy?
Yeah, sure. Right, exactly.
Wait, he's gone. Where is he? Loading VCRs in the van.
VCRs. Well, VCRs and sacks of coal.
Wouldn't that be illegal? Wouldn't that be treasonous? Maybe
Yeah.
I just don't know.
That would be,
Well, treason,
but we don't
again,
know.
treason as defined by the Constitution is extremely narrow. It's a very narrow definition of what treason. When you look at the constitutional definition of what treason is, it's very specific. Number one, the Constitution defines it as you have to be in a state of war. So what we call treason, there's the constitutional definition of treason. And this is what we have to delineate. There's the constitutional definition of treason, very rarely invoked. Very rarely is it used. The last time you could say it was effectively used was against the Goldbergs in the 1950s. Okay, the spy ring, and Ethel and Julius, who were electrocuted. I mean, they were eventually executed for that, and because they committed acts of treason against the United States, and even though a formal declaration of war did not exist, it was deemed to be a state of war in that sense. But anyway, so there's a very technical constitutional definition. But then there's the general understanding of, like what you said, treasonous. Treasonous activity is a different thing. So, to me, it's treasonous. Yeah, I think it's completely treasonous to ask for and cooperate with a hostile foreign power to interfere with the electoral process to benefit you. Yeah, that's treasonous. Is it treason? Probably not.
And my big thing is to diminish the power of the country you are leading and give it to another country and fuck up the whole world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my big why I'm so anxious about all of it.
Yeah.
Is all of these things are happening behind the scenes. Tillerson doesn't carry a press corps. I mean, all of these things. You've got Kushner. God knows where he is. All it takes is a phone call to Trump on his cell phone and a deal can happen. All of this stuff is happening very covertly, and it has never happened like that before in our government, so covertly. I mean, you'd have to go back to the Vietnam War to try and find some things that we had done, as national policy that were as big as what we're talking about now. And here we have to wait. And our intelligence community has.
What's the alternative?
Yeah.
What's the alternative?
Well, here's the thing.
You can't run off half-cocked. You have to have a case.
They may have the goods. There's that. So there's an aspect of it. They go off too quickly. They make the Comey mistake, like happened during the election, which is there's some microbes here.
Okay.
And if they, even let's say they have the goods and say that they have the proof that Trump's surrogates colluded with Russia, he could be an unwitting player in all this. There's going to be people throwing themselves under the bus for him. He's going to get out of this pretty much without going to jail, even if he's impeached or what have you, or resigns.
Well, if he's impeached, I was just thinking about this morning. If he's impeached, he'll clearly make a deal with Pence to have himself pardoned.
Yeah, easy peasy. So, I mean, that's all well and good. What we have to do right now is suffer through this bumbling and suffer through this reduction of power in the world and these awful things, because that's the only way to prove to people that this is a bad dude that doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
It hasn't affected us yet. We're still in that bubble. We're still coasting in off some jobs and some neat things that Obama did, and a buildup of 8 years of trying to fix the economy, and still some goodwill across the world for the people of the United States. Obama's still out there. Where was he just recently? He was in Germany doing something,
and he was in France, and then he's in Canada.
He's in Canada, and he's still out there. But now people are going to start to realize that Germany's stepping up. Canada just did a massive push to increase their military, because they're like, well, we're no longer safely under the U.S. umbrella.
Right, and
So
see
this
what
is
happens
just today.
The simpletons, though, go, well, good, they should pay their fair share. And you're like, okay, I get that, but you don't understand what the long-term implications of that are.
Right.
We are losing our influence. We are losing our ability to control events. Events are going to start controlling us now.
And it will happen. And then people will see, because remember, the conservative call, it doesn't matter till it happens to me.
Right. Yeah.
And they think all of this spending on the defense will keep them safe, but that isn't what has kept us safe all these years. It has been our diplomacy around the world, creating our illusion of power.
And there wasn't even an illusion. There was world power.
Mostly money. I mean, if you want to come down to it, it was money.
Well, we had hard power and we had soft power. Mm-hmm. Hard power being the military aspect of it and the diplomatic role that we could play in the world through that. Soft power was the culture and the money. Mm-hmm. And that's, those two things together that was a hell of a club to wield.
And even the culture's fading now.
Right. And so as we again lose our influence, events are going to be shaping us, not the other way around. And again, you have these, I think, people will, when it suits their purpose, will say, oh, that's a good thing. We shouldn't be, It was the same stuff that you would have heard when the stuff first came out about Russia interfering in the election, and you heard a lot of Trump supporters and Republicans who would say, well, the U.S. has been manipulating elections for years, so we had it coming. And you're like, really? Yeah, I get it. Like, if you want to have, oh, really? If you want to have a conversation about the overreach of our intelligence services and the unethical ways in which we have manipulated foreign governments, yeah, I'm open to that conversation, but you really don't want to have that conversation. You're just pretending you do.
And those things come from direction. That comes from the top. That is not something that the director of the FBI decides, oh, we're going to go screw with the Peru election this year. That comes from a strategic command up the way, and it was probably a Republican. It was probably Nixon or Johnson.
It's probably the same motivation is the same Russian motivations. They want the world power. Mm-hmm. We wanted the world power. And this is, what he's done in 4.5 months is ruined approximately 60 years of very hard work to position the United States at the top of the heap.
Look, again, we withdraw from TPP. Now, nations in that area of the world, Australia, New Zealand, all these other countries, they now have to seek bilateral agreements with China. Immensely benefits China. Yeah. Immensely. The whole point of TPP, and again, I'm sure it was an imperfect agreement and it probably needed a lot of work. I have no doubt about that. Just like NAFTA was an imperfect agreement and needed a lot of work. But instead of acknowledging, like, this is not working, let's renegotiate or let's see if we can fix it, just like with Obamacare, we get this notion of, no, rip it out and just get rid of it. So we leave TPP. China is the biggest beneficiary of that decision. Yep. We leave the Paris Accords, again, China immensely benefits from it. They are way out in front of us on green technology.
They just step forward in the moral majority, too, which is China's never been there. Right. China and Germany, once he pulled out of Paris, like, well, the U.S. has pulled out, but we are committed. We apologize for being the worst polluters on the planet.
Well, and then,
But we're committed.
yeah, and the fact is,
oh my God, we just lost that.
right? So you lose the moral high ground.
We are trumped by China in the moral high ground.
Right, exactly.
They shoot girl babies out of cannons, and we got trumped by them. Bye, girl babies.
They're like T-shirt cannons and
The t-shirt cannons. It's like the 300. They're all going to rise up and
right.
attack.
So, again, China benefits from that. And all the other nations, instead of, and you almost got the sense that Trump thought, like, I'll back out of this Paris Accord, which, by the way, makes no sense when you look at the details of it. First of all, the way the accord was written, first of all, it has no enforcement mechanism anyway, so it didn't.
And you set your own parameters.
Okay, right. And the way that it basically says is that the agreement, it takes 3 years to back out of it anyway. It takes 3 years. By the way, just to show you the intelligence of the negotiators, and I'm sure Obama had something to do with this, 3 years is way longer than any of these agreements. Most of these agreements have 6 months to a year tops to get out of it. They purposely made this 3 years, and it's really 4 years. When you look at the whole mechanism of it, it takes 4 years to completely withdraw out of the agreement. That was done on purpose, so that the normal political it could not be accomplished within just one single political cycle. Right. What nation has a 4-year political cycle? I can't think of what that is. It's almost like Obama was just looking at his crystal ball and was like, yeah, just in case.
You know what I want to do?
You know,
I want to watch the news with the Obamas one day. Just be like, oh my, did you see what he did? I like to hear them talk about the stuff Trump's doing. Yeah. It would have been like, it's got to be fascinating.
Oh God.
Once again, it would be that inside knowledge that I would want from Obama too.
He
knew.
I'm upset.
Passing out documents and shit. So,
well, we know that they sent some of the more sensitive stuff. They made sure to disperse it out into the government so it couldn't just disappear on day one. It's out there now, and so it can never disappear. That was a smart move. But on the other hand, I feel like, and I have to think Obama probably feels this way too. He should have been more active, more vocal in coming out, and while he still controlled the federal government,
I would say
to put more out there.
Because at that point, you had 43% of the country not knowing what the hell they would do if you said their boy was crooked. Mm-hmm. Right. You know, what the hell would happen? I can't. I don't even want to think about it.
I mean,
your boy's a criminal. Well, let's shoot him all up then.
Well, that's what we've heard, though. I mean, even when you say he's a criminal, even when you say he's doing illegal things, people go, yeah, so he was there. I voted for him to shake up Washington. Illegally? And they go, I mean, their essential answer is, yeah, I don't care. Are you fucking kidding me?
I've seen
that's doomed.
That's Putin.
That is
literally thanking Putin. Thank you.
That is depressing as hell to me.
And it really is. I mean, what happened to the psyche of our country? I mean,
wait till it hits them. Like I said, we're selfish. We're selfish. We're a selfish species, a selfish society, not just a species. And nothing matters until it matters to them.
Right. And that is inherently true here, for sure. That when it hits them, you'll hear them scream.
Oh, yeah. They look at the ACA repeal. No one peeped, like, get rid of Obamacare. It's going to affect you. Well, shit. Don't get rid of Obamacare.
Yeah, and you probably can't blame them. They're probably not getting taught what the New Deal was. And
you can blame them for not going to find out, too.
Yeah, true. But
we're all responsible for ourselves. Personal responsibility, the conservative mantra, right?
So, but
within reason.
Did you guys hear that story today about the New York renters? Most of them, one of the highest percentages of public assistance is going to these rent-controlled buildings, and most of these rent-controlled buildings are millionaires.
Yeah, have no doubt.
Yeah, and
that's the welfare. When you hear the welfare state, the right. Let me translate that for you. The Republican Party. I just want to translate that for you.
Well,
the Republican Party has concocted this vision that is now, again, seeped into the culture. When you say welfare, that it's an African American with multiple children by multiple women, Okay, I'm not kidding you. I mean, this is the welfare queen. This goes back to Ronald Reagan, and it's still, and even though it didn't exist then, and it doesn't exist now, makes no difference. It is what is in our collective mind when you hear welfare, is that it's a minority who is lazy and waits for a check from the government so they can spend it on drugs. Essentially, that is the concoction of the Republican Party.
It's true.
Okay?
They're just not black, and they mostly live in Alabama and Mississippi.
Well, right. So there's that aspect of it. But the thing is, by percentage, the welfare state that we live in is providing welfare to exactly who you were talking about, Rob, corporations and millionaires. That's where the welfare is really going to. Okay? My conception of welfare is of a white guy in a three-piece suit who is driven everywhere, has 4 homes. That is the true welfare recipient. Okay, right. They're the ones that are really receiving the welfare through corporate tax breaks, through everything that this government is totally geared towards providing them, shifting, funneling tax dollars by the hundreds of billions of dollars to corporate America in all kinds of forms. We think about you talk about the American farmer. And yet we know that increasingly,
it's Tyson.
Right? These are these megacorps that are the American farmer. The true American farmer that we think of, the actual guy, and they're still out there. God bless them. They're still out there. The family farmer, but every year we know there are less and fewer of them because they can't compete with these mega farms. Mm-hmm. So when you hear farm subsidies, largely we go, we're helping out the little guy, and they're like, not so much anymore. Mostly it's helping out corporations like Tyson, and all the rest of them. So that's welfare to me. And that's the thing that precedes this election. That precedes the Trump administration.
Well, don't you feel that this is like the crescendo? It's like they finally got their guy in. They got their guy in the Supreme Court. We're colluding with Russia. The end is near.
The season finale?
Yeah, as far as people who even knew or know of all of the protections that came along with the EPA, all of the protections that came along with unions, all of the protections that came along with the New Deal and a living wage and all of the 5-day work week and a 40-hour work week. All of those things that we all take for granted. It seems like the longer we let this Trump guy and his cohorts in, the faster they're just they're not seeing us. They're not seeing us. Just keep going, and they're stripping these protections away.
Well,
and that's why I am just at the edge of my seat all the time.
I think not seeing us is the only inaccurate part of that, because everyone's seeing it. They're just not caring because it hasn't affected them yet.
Yeah.
But the question, though, to take up Rob's point of view, then the question is, by the time it does affect them, can it be changed?
Can it be turned back?
That's the problem.
That's the thing, and that's then. As much as you and I and Rob and people didn't vote for this and didn't want this to happen, a lot of people did.
Yeah.
And we got to suck it up and take their punishment too. It's like that time when John was caught with a bunch of Twix bars in class, and he didn't have enough for everyone. He was hoarding them, and he made the entire class do push-ups and watch him eat Twix. They were all punished, and then they hated John after that.
Or peanut M&Ms, actually.
I don't know. I was making the entire thing up.
Actually, I had to sell a whole case of peanut M&Ms for a band. And
how did I know this was going to lead to something?
I ate them all.
Did you really?
Yeah. Not at once.
A whole
but,
case? How many in the case?
There's 24 boxes.
No, it was more than that.
I think
it was more like 50.
Okay. This is the
like 50, and these are the cardboard boxes.
Yeah, the big boxes.
50
boxes. Again, not all at once.
Did you pay for them?
Well, my mom did.
See,
Mom,
and
that was my version of welfare. All right,
here we go. This is indicative of our issue. No one's going to learn a lesson.
Right.
I mean, the big lesson there would have been you probably should have developed some horrible disease for eating.
It's amazing. It's amazing I didn't get diabetes right then and there. This is true.
You know how our friend Trico got diabetes?
No.
Or no, he got gout.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Trico didn't have diabetes.
So don't tell him the diagnosis.
This is a story he's told many people, so I feel okay telling it. He went All-American on something, and he didn't know when he went to the grocery store that you could get corn dogs not at a carnival. So he bought a family box of corn dogs. And over the course of a day, he ate the entire family-sized box of corn dogs. Started to feel horrible, went to the doctor, and they said, "What did you do? You gave yourself gout." So he's had gout ever since.
By eating a whole box
A whole
of
box
corn dogs.
of microwave corn dogs.
How are we not Trump supporters?
I don't.
Sure sound like it.
Well, you learned. You learned that a whole 50
Yeah, this is true.
case box of peanut M&Ms, not good for you.
No.
Enjoyable. Like, as much fun as this guy is in office, it's pretty enjoyable. It's just not good for you.
Right. When the bill came due, and I had to go to Mom and go...
And the bill really never came due because Mom paid for it.
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But when it was time to pay, like, all right, everyone turn in their money for your M&Ms, I'm like, yeah.
How much were they a box then?
Probably 50 cents. So it was like
25
25 bucks. You know, we're talking like 1980.
That's
That's
100 comic books at the time. Wow, you blew it.
That would have been a whole paycheck for after-school work.
Yeah, I was like,
That's in 1980.
and I think I
like
told
five
I
logs.
told my mom because I didn't want to say I ate them all.
Oh, what'd you tell her?
I think I gave them away. Like, I gave them away. My friends wanted some,
So you
and
totally lied again.
yeah.
Your mom, man.
Yeah.
Your poor mom.
So my mom's like the American people in this scenario.
Your
And I'm-
mom has been taking a line of bullshit from you for so
Right.
long.
And I'm like, in this regard, I was like the Republican Party.
But she's
know,
she's like
I
the
used-
John supporter. Like my John can never do wrong. John was colluding with Russia to eat M&Ms. No, he wasn't. He gave them to his friends because he's a very nice human. You know, this is what's happening. This is not. If we break it down to like a microcosm,
Oh.
person to person level.
Right.
And all we would have needed was a couple of fake news stories, you know.
Oh yeah, you probably had a friend of
See, if I'd only known, then I could have put out some fake news.
You didn't
stories.
need them though.
Oh.
She did it.
Right.
She's straight. You were the fake news story.
Yeah, you just, you
She
put on your
didn't
own.
need it outside. She's like, "Oh really? You're such a good boy, John. $25 here. I don't care if we can't eat this week. It's 1980. It's our whole grocery bill."
And knowing me, I probably told her it was 30. And they kept the
So you go get more M&Ms
Oh my god!
from your buddy who still has them.
Hey, you guys got any more of those? I need 10 boxes. Oh my gosh!
I am a horrible person.
Oh my gosh! You are.
I know.
What happened?
Well, I turned out better.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, really, no, I'm better.
I'm better.
Would you do it again?
Well, no.
No.
I don't know.
What if it was
Let's see.
like
Let's see. Okay, so you got a Girl Scout in your family.
Yes.
How many boxes of cookies does she sell on her own? Be real.
Probably 2.
How many boxes end up in your home?
A lot.
Yeah.
But they're all paid for.
Well, yeah. You can't steal them.
Right. Okay. So, but I pay for them.
Right.
I don't call my mom.
But she gets all the credit for selling them, right?
Yeah.
You're handing this down.
Yeah.
This
okay.
awfulness.
Right. Oh my God.
And next week, we'll have
The only good part is she doesn't consume 50 boxes of Girl Scout cookies.
All right. Don't tell Mueller.
I'm appointing Rob Vidro as the special prosecutor for the arcing
You may
issues.
expand the prosecution.
Your mom's gonna get a call anyway. So yeah,
I'm just gonna Nunes on you, man.
he's gonna recuse
You
himself.
better come up with another name.
You better not, because your dad will throw you under the bus.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I can't believe
we've
this.
ground this conversation to a halt with my tales of woe
Your criminal behavior.
and criminal behavior.
You stole from one place and then effectively stole from another place to cover that.
Right.
You're like writing bad checks.
But I learned a lesson. I did.
Which was?
Well, don't eat 50 boxes of M&Ms.
No.
I did.
You know,
I never did it again.
That, no.
No.
No, but you've used the fake news on your mom again. Multiple times.
Not for anything edible.
Consumable.
Consumable. We'll save that for next week.
When John completely ruins all future careers he's about to have.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was... Yeah, sorry. There goes my Supreme Court nomination.
Yeah, well, you can't really get away with the not inhaling on that one. That's part of the story.
Except, I inhaled the M&Ms, is what... For they'll get friends will testimony. He was cutting them up and snorting them.
This is 80, so it's pre-Jabba the Hutt. You didn't even have a template. He was cutting them and snorting them, too. That's all the protein in the peanuts. I need the protein in the peanuts.
Oh, do you mind if I do a line? Yeah, go ahead. Fuck it, let's all do one. I can't feel my face. I mean, I can touch it, but I can't feel it inside.
Who dunks M&M's? Who dunks M&M's? In chocolate, take a guess. In chocolate, can you guess? Who covers them in candy? So there is no chocolate mess. The M&M's man. The M&M's man. The M&M's man. And he adds a lot of love to make it all taste good. The milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
Subscribe to the No Cry Zone on iTunes and Stitcher and at abnormalentertainment.com/No Cry Zone. Find the No Cry Zone on Facebook and tweet at No Cry Zone. Email nocryzonepodcast@gmail.com. And for more podcasts, comics, books, movies, and more, head to abnormalentertainment.com.
You've been listening to the Abnormal Entertainment Network.
There is nothing like watching a movie on the big screen, and with MoviePass, you can see unlimited movies every month from Abnormal Entertainment. Head to abnormalentertainment.com and click on the MoviePass banner to get your first month free. And after that, it's only $30 a month to see unlimited movies, even on opening day. Go as many times as you want. Have a blast with MoviePass and abnormalentertainment.com.